Mario games usually aren't known for their difficulty. They're designed to be fun, accessible, and rewarding, something anyone can pick up and play, but even the most welcoming games can still test your patience, and Mario's had plenty of moments that do exactly that. Some levels feel like a fair challenge, while others make you want to throw your controller into the nearest wall. Starting with the original Super Mario Bros., people often remember it as a simple, iconic little adventure that basically invented the platforming genre. And yeah, it did that, but if you actually go back and play it, you're reminded just how ruthless it can be. This was before save files, before power-up stockpiles, before checkpoints in every other room. You had 3 lives, and that was it. Unless of course you found some more 1-up mushrooms or got 100 coins. The early worlds ease you in, sure, but by the time you hit World 8, it becomes a completely different beast. 8-1 sets the tone with long stretches of barely any power-ups, enemies perfectly positioned to punish every hesitation, but the real trial is World 8-4, the original final castle. This stage is iconic, not because of flashy visuals or epic music, it's because it's confusing, it's a maze, you go through pipes in the wrong order and find yourself right back at the start. You have to learn through trial and error, remembering which pipes lead forward and which ones reset your progress. Find that with fire bars, potaboos, and pits timed to your exact jump speed, and you've got one of the first truly punishing endgames in platforming history. Even with all that, it still does feel fair. There's no cheap tricks. It is confusing, but once you learn the way, it does get a lot better. And it's a good way to cap off one of the most difficult games in the series. Now, if the original Super Mario Bros. Was difficult to you, then the lost levels may test your patience too much. This is the game that asked, how far can you go before you break? Released in Japan as Super Mario Bros. 2, it was considered so punishing that Nintendo refused to release it overseas for years. They thought Western players simply wouldn't finish it, and they were probably right. Everything about the lost levels is designed to punish familiarity. It takes every instinct you learned from the first game and twists it against you. That mushroom, it's poisonous. That warp zone, it sends you backwards. That platform you think you could reach, there's a wind now, and it'll blow you right into the pit. It's Nintendo at their most sadistic, turning comfort into chaos. But for those who stick with it, for the players stubborn enough to fight through the 8 main worlds of this game, the Lost Levels rewards them with something few people ever see, and one of these is World C3, part of the game's hidden bonus world unlocked after beating it twice. And this level is the true final boss, just the purest embodiment of the Lost Levels cruelty. It drops you into a gauntlet that feels like the developer's final joke. The stage looks simple, flat stretches of land, springboards, Koopas, and some scattered platforms, but then you realize the spacing of everything is deliberately off. Enemies appear in exactly the wrong place at the wrong time, and worst of all, there's that one infamous section, just a long row of springboards and floating lifts suspended above a pit that feel endless. The wind mechanic is back, pushing you just as you leap, forcing you to commit to jumps you can't fully control. You also can't even see yourself at the peak of your jumps. It's one of the most stressful sequences in Mario history. Every springboard bounce feels like a coin flip. You'll overshoot by a pixel, or the wind will gust a half second too late, and suddenly you're watching Mario spiral into the void. And now for the other Super Mario Bros. 2, the one we got in the West, it felt like stepping into a dream, and I wonder why. Gone were the Goombas and fire flowers, replaced with vegetables, Shy Guys, and an entirely different rhythm of play. Nowhere is that clearer than World 7-2, this game's true test. It's a tall, twisting maze that ends with you fighting Wart and has a lot of climbing with rage-inducing enemy placements. The moment you pick up that key, the eerie mask awakens and relentlessly chases you through every room. You're climbing ladders, ducking into doors, dodging enemies, and praying you don't drop the key, because if you do, Vanto stops until you pick it back up again. It's a level that feeds on your nerves, punishing hesitation and panic more than poor timing. And there are other keys in this game, but this one is just much more difficult with its platforming challenges. Every time you think you're safe, that haunting sound kicks in again, and your heartbeat spikes, and by the time you finally reach Birdo at the top, it's actually a relief. The victory you get, though, after finishing this level is just one of the more satisfying level completions in the series. Now, it may not be as unforgiving as the Lost Levels, but it's easily one of the most tense and memorable challenges in Mario's 8-bit history. Super Mario Land is one of the easier Mario games, with arguably the most difficult thing being staring at a tiny monochrome screen for a while. But if I had to choose one moment, it's the final push in Chai Kingdom, World 4-3. The Skypop flight into the showdown with Tatanga, it's just a relentless sequence with tight corridors, enemies streaming in from blind angles, and a boss that floods the screen with starburst patterns. Tatanga doesn't give you much room, he drifts just enough to spoil lazy shots. You don't get a breather between the auto-scroller and the boss, so arriving underpowered or rattled means your run is already on the back foot. It just feels a lot different than most other Mario games, and is it the most difficult level ever? No. Is it going to be a challenge for most people? Probably. Feels like the controls are playing against you a little more than the actual true difficulty of this level. Now, by the time players reached Super Mario Bros. 3, Nintendo had mastered the art of challenge through design, and no stage embodies that more than World 8 Air Force, in the heart of the Darkland. After 7 worlds of bright, creative fun, this level hits like a brick wall. It's the final gauntlet before Bowser's Castle, and it's one of the most intense auto-scrollers in 2D Mario history. You're thrown onto a line of tanks rolling across a battlefield with cannonballs, bombs, fireballs coming at you from every direction. The screen does not stop moving, forcing you to keep pace even when you desperately want to stop and catch your breath. You gotta have precise jumps, avoid enemies, there's just no safety here. This is an iconic level because Super Mario Bros. 3 is one of the best 2D platformers of all time. Instead of needing to rely on gimmicks or poor controls to make it difficult, this just feels like a greatly designed level, something we'd see a lot more of in the Mario series. And this is one of the games where a lot of these are going to be consensus picks, but I think you could probably go with a few other levels here, but for me, this was the most difficult. Super Mario World is my favorite 2D Mario platformer. It's just a bright, colorful game, it's fun, it's not too difficult, it's not too easy, but hidden within all of that is the special zone. Getting to it already takes dedication. You have to find the hidden Star Road levels, beat them, and unlock the path to this secret world, and then the game hits you with 8 of the hardest levels Nintendo has ever made at the time. It starts innocent enough, gnarly, tubular, way cool. Sounds very 80s. Then you realize Tubular is one of the most diabolical levels in the entire series. In Tubular, you have to use the P-Balloon power-up to float through an open sky with enemies. It's a slow, clunky transformation that leaves you completely vulnerable, and every hit sends you plummeting to your death. The level's layout is designed to tease you with coins just out of reach and enemies positioned exactly where you don't want them. Even with the game's smoother SNES controls, it's precision hell. There's almost no ground here, so you don't even have a second to relax. What's genius is that Super Mario World hides its hardest content behind curiosity. Most casual players will never find the special zone, but those who do are greeted with some of the most devious levels Nintendo has ever pulled off. Now there's a few other levels here in the special zone that are still pretty difficult, and you might be able to go with a couple others, but for me Tubular was the most difficult. A couple years after the original Mario Land came out, 6 Golden Coins released and was a significantly better game, although not too difficult either. But nothing compares to Wario's Castle. It's a long, checkpoint-starved gauntlet that weaponizes the game's chunkier physics against you. Conveyor belts shove you into spike pistons, ball and chain maces sweep just along to clip casual jumps, moving platforms demand patience, then punish hesitation, power-ups are rare, and it feels like Mario is just walking on a tightrope in parts of this level. Then comes Wario across multiple escalating phases in a cramped arena. Each phase tweaks his movement and offense, heavier leaps that quake the floor, tighter corner traps, and projectile pressure that squeezes your safe zones. Again, this is not the most difficult level, Wario's not the most difficult boss, but it's a good challenge for what this game is. Now for the first 3D game in this video, where there's a whole new dimension of difficulty, Super Mario 64, or specifically Super Mario 64 DS, is one of the first games I ever played, so you could probably imagine I had some trouble with it. Also not to mention playing a 3D game with the D-pad, but the most difficult level for me was Wing Mario Over the Rainbow. On paper, it's a very simple level. Just collect some red coins in a small area, there's no bosses or enemies here, no puzzles, so why is this the most difficult level in the game? Well, the first reason is that Super Mario 64 is already a fairly easy game. The second and biggest reason is that the controls are just awful here. This is the true definition of artificial difficulty, and what I mean by that is it's not difficult because of layout or something like that, it's difficult because the controls work against you. Mix that with only having a small amount of room to land for each coin, and it's just extremely frustrating. Super Mario Sunshine might look bright and breezy on the surface, but anyone who's played it knows the truth. This game hides some of Mario's most chaotic, unpredictable challenges, and also some of the worst controls in 3D Mario, at least for parts. The floodless levels can be difficult, the final level isn't a walk in the park either, but the perfect example, and kind of a similar reason to Wing Mario Over the Rainbow, the pachinko level. It sounds fun, bounce around a giant pachinko machine and collect red coins, but in practice it's one of the most frustrating stages Nintendo's ever created. The level drops you into a massive pachinko board floating in the sky, and immediately the controls and camera betray you. Flood behaves strangely, momentum feels exaggerated, and Mario slides around like he's coated in oil. You're meant to launch yourself from spring pads and steer midair to land in coin slots, but the physics are inconsistent. Sometimes you overshoot, sometimes you drift just shy of a platform and fall helplessly into the void. There's no ground, no safety net, and no way to recover once you fall off. What makes this level so infamous isn't just the difficulty, but it's the unpredictability. You could do the exact same jump twice and get completely different outcomes. It's a level that laughs at precision and demands patience bordering on madness. When you finally collect that last red coin and grab the Shine Sprite, it's just relief that you never have to play this again. When New Super Mario Bros. Hit the DS, it was a revival, a return to Mario's roots after a decade of 3D adventures. It looked modern but played like classic Mario. It's an easier game by design, built to reintroduce the series to a new generation, but that doesn't mean it's all easy, and the final world proves it. The hardest part of New Super Mario Bros. Comes at the end in World 8's castle, specifically the stretch leading up to the final Bowser fight. The level is a claustrophobic mix of lava, moving platforms, gravity-defying mechanics, maze-like mechanics. You're constantly juggling between keeping your distance from hazards and maintaining enough speed to stay ahead. And since this is a handheld Mario game, your field of view is narrower, which makes every leap feel more uncertain. What makes it memorable is how cinematic it feels for its time. You beat Bowser Jr., think you've won, then Bowser himself is resurrected, towering over you in full size, and you're forced into a battle between the two of them. It's not hard in the same way as the lost levels, but it's intense, and it feels like you're actually escaping a monster rather than finishing a level. This level gave me a lot more trouble than I cared to admit when I was a kid, and it's not the most punishing Mario game, but that last castle was a wake-up call. For many players, especially those who grew up on Sunshine or 64, it was their first reminder that side-scrolling Mario could still be a little difficult. When Super Mario Galaxy released on the Wii, it felt like Nintendo had found magic again. The gravity mechanics, orchestral score, and sheer imagination made it one of the most beloved Mario games ever made, and to this day is my favorite in the series, and the same for a lot of other people because we just got a remaster of this in Galaxy 2 literally a few days ago. But don't let that charm fool you. Buried beneath the cosmic wonder is one of the most nerve-wracking, precision-based challenges in the entire series, Luigi's Purple Coins in Toy Time Galaxy. Most of Galaxy's difficulty comes from mastering movement on curved planets. It's easy to underestimate how disorienting it can be when down changes direction every few feet, but Luigi's Purple Coins is on another level. The premise sounds simple: collect 100 coins in just 3 minutes, scattered across disappearing and tilting platforms. But the moment you start, you realize how cruel it is. The platforms are constantly vanishing, the camera is iffy, and there's no ground beneath you, only the void of space. You're balancing timing, platforming, and momentum all at once. The course plays psychological tricks on you too. You see rows of coins just out of reach and feel compelled to take risks you shouldn't. There's no safety buffer, you miss a platform or take too much time, and it's instant death. No checkpoints, no power-ups, just raw platforming skill and focus. Finally grabbing that last coin and returning to the starting point is euphoric. The screen fades, you finally get the star, and your knees are weak and palms are sweaty, but you finally finish this level and hopefully never have to play it again. Another level I gotta give a shout out to is the cleaning the trash level, whatever it's called. I literally could not beat this level as a kid. Even now this level's still difficult. You just need to be perfect with every single move. Now on to New Super Mario Bros. Wii, which is again not a hard game. There's no hard game in this series. The only thing that might make it difficult is getting thrown around in multiplayer. However, there are a few levels that you need to find all the star coins in a world to unlock. These unlock levels for you in World 9, and while some of these can be a challenge, 9-7 is by far the most difficult. There's piranha plants spitting fire everywhere, and if that isn't bad enough, you're running on ice, which makes controlling more difficult. Oh, if that isn't bad enough after being bad enough, there are enemies in the ice blocks that will damage you if the ice block is melted. This level can get pretty brutal, especially if you do this in multiplayer where people are getting in your way. It's just extremely stressful, but it's also kind of a fun level. Some of the levels on this list I had to think about, but I did not have to think about it for Galaxy 2. It's the Grandmaster Galaxy The Perfect Run. This level is infamous. It's the kind of stage that makes even veteran players sweat. Besides needing 9,999 star bits and basically getting everything else in the game, the level itself is brutal. It's split into segments that each represent a type of challenge, whether it's platforming, precision, Yoshi sections, pull-star navigation, flipping platforms, and finally a gauntlet of hammer bros and lasers. And the catch, you can't take a single hint in this entire gauntlet. One mistake and it's over, literally no room for error. It's called the perfect run for a reason. Every jump feels terrifying. You're threading through electric barriers and landing on tiny ledges that barely exist. And when you finally reach the end, you face a staircase lined with enemies. It's cruel and unusual, and even all these years later, the Hammer Bros are still giving you trouble. However, the payoff is unmatched. Beating the perfect run feels like completing a marathon. You've mastered every mechanic, every power-up, every instinct the game has ever taught you, and when you grab that final star, it is really satisfying. At first glance, Mario 3D Land seems like the gentlest of all 3D Mario games. It's a colorful, short, and portable game, and the perfect title to show off the 3DS's stereoscopic depth. The early levels practically hold your hand, and the main part of the game is really easy, but after you beat Bowser and think you're done, you unlock the special worlds, and they're no joke. While every special world ramps up the challenge, the hardest part of 3D Land is Special 8 Crown, the game's true final level. It's the ultimate test, a single, checkpoint-free gauntlet that throws every mechanic you've learned back at you at once. You're dodging bullet bills, hopping across moving platforms, avoiding fire bars, and dealing with all that while the level taunts you with speed and precision. But what makes this so diabolical is how long it is. You're in for minutes straight with no break, no checkpoints, one mistake, one slightly mistimed jump, and it's all over. And yeah, this is a really fun level because Mario 3D Land is not my favorite Mario game. I really didn't like how easy the main campaign was, and this was a good way to finish off the game. I don't think it's the most difficult, and if you use the White Tanuki suit, it's much easier, but I think most Mario players could figure out this level without that. I'm not a fan of New Super Mario Bros. 2, just felt way too safe and gave me almost no challenge. However, there is something here that may just be the most difficult level in a Mario game. And for this, you have to look beyond the main game and into the appropriately named DLC, Impossible Pack. I'm really glad I got this because since it's DLC on the 3DS, you're unable to purchase it anymore. This pack is infamous for one reason. It's exactly what it says. It's in the name. It's impossible, or at least it feels that way. The Impossible Pack features 3 levels that push Mario's 2D mechanics to their absolute limits. And when I say 3 levels, I don't mean you make it to one level and you're good. If you lose, you go back to the first level. No checkpoints, no power-ups, no margin for error. These are pure skill gauntlets meant for expert players who've already beaten everything else the game has to offer. The first level starts you off in chaos, with tight water sections, narrow jumps over pits, enemies positioned to get you, and platforms that demand pixel perfect timing. Also, not to mention, you can't take a moment to breathe without pausing because you have very limited time. But it's the third level that truly earned its reputation. It's a near endless chain of dangerous setups, precision jumps on tiny blocks, enemies that are always in the worst possible spot, and of course you just have so little time to do this. This level feels like something that someone made in Mario Maker because of how difficult it was, but yes, this was a real New Super Mario Bros. Level, and I'm going to be 100% honest here and say, I have never beaten this level. I used to spend hours on this when I was like 11 or 12 years old, but I could just never finish this. I don't even know if I actually made it far into the third level. Maybe because I'm writing this, I'll go back for the first time in like a decade and see if I can beat it, but I don't know if I have the patience for it. While New Super Mario Bros. U might look like another safe entry in the series, and it very much is, it quietly hides some of the toughest challenges Mario's ever faced. And none are more brutal than Challenge Mode, Don't Touch Anything. This level is exactly what it sounds like. If you touch 6 coins, you die. That doesn't sound too hard until you play it and see Nintendo shoved a ton of coins in this level and you need to go out of your way to avoid them. This level really did the no coin challenge before all those Subway Surfer videos. Super Mario 3D World might look like a lighthearted co-op platformer. It's colorful, has cat suits, charming music, but make no mistake, it hides one of the most infamously brutal levels Nintendo has ever made. On the surface, it's a celebration of Mario's legacy, mixes 2D structures with 3D movement, but underneath that polish though lies Champions Road. To even unlock Champions Road, you need to beat all the levels and get the green stars. It's the ultimate completionist reward, and when you finally get in, the game immediately drops all pretense of mercy. There's no power-ups, no checkpoints, just precision platforming, and it's divided into sections that test every skill you've built over the course of the game. Running across disappearing platforms, dodging homing attacks while crossing narrow beams, and surviving an auto-scrolling section filled with boost pads that practically beg you to panic. Champions Road is the kind of challenge that's burned into Mario history. It's fair, but it's punishing, and a summary of everything you've learned. It takes the joy and chaos of 3D World's co-op and distills it into pure, lonely focus. And this really continues the theme that we've seen in a few other 3D games in this, where at the end it just gives you a brutal challenge. Now, a game you might not have expected to be on this list, Super Mario Run, which is the simplest Mario game ever made. You literally just tap to jump, collect coins, and keep running. But once you start chasing the hardest goals, it actually becomes a little difficult. The real challenge lies in Black Coin Special Course 3, a stage that transforms this one-button mobile game into a test of absolute timing and memorization. This level feels almost cruel in its precision. You're running across short ledges, making narrow jumps trying to avoid the saws, which are either stationary or moving at you. You're also doing this while trying to grab 5 perfectly placed black coins. If you miss a single one, you have to restart the entire course. There's no room for error. Every tap must be perfectly timed to the rhythm of Mario's movement. Even small variations, like pressing too early, too late, or holding a fraction too long, send the whole run off course. What makes Black Coin Special Course 3 so punishing is just how deceptively fair it is. There's no randomness, there's no tricks, it's just flawless design. This level dares you to be perfect, and it won't settle for anything less. I wish we got more levels like this in Super Mario Run, because then it actually might be worth playing. When Super Mario Odyssey launched on the Switch, it was like a love letter to everything that came before. A sprawling adventure packed with creativity, movement, and exploration. Most of the game is forgiving. You can collect moons in nearly any order, and dying barely costs you anything. But then you beat the game, and it throws down the gauntlet, the dark side of the moon. And if that isn't hard enough, there's the darker side of the moon, which is what I'm going to be talking about. This is Odyssey's ultimate test. It's just one colossal level that strings together every mechanic you've learned across the entire game. I feel like I've said that like 5 times in this video already. There's no checkpoints, just pure platforming. It starts simple, lava jumps and enemy captures you've seen before, and gradually ramps up into insanity. You're jumping across moving platforms trying to bring you back while you're just barely over lava. You have to control the lava bubble to swim through searing magma while avoiding spikes. It's brutal enough, but then comes the rocket flower sprint when you have to dash through collapsing blocks with perfect timing. Miss even one and you're gone. And when you think you've made it, you're faced with a series of tiny moving platforms over lava where one wrong flick of the joystick means starting from scratch. This is honestly one of my favorite Mario levels of all time, just because it feels extremely difficult, but also not too difficult where it feels impossible, like the Impossible Pack for example. After some practice, you should be able to finish it without it being too frustrating like some other levels on this list. The design is also just perfection. I wish we got a Darkest Side of the Moon after this to make it even more difficult, but honestly I don't know how they would have topped this level without making it just ridiculously hard. And we have Bowser's Fury, which I actually haven't played in a few years, and it's one of the few games in here I've went back to. So if I ever remake this video after playing this again, this could change, but I'm just gonna go with the final boss. It is kind of difficult to choose one on here just because there's no actual levels, it's an open world. But besides being cinematic, there's just so much adrenaline here. Fury Bowser is intimidating and has some great music. To dodge his attacks, which can be easier said than done. Honestly, I gotta go back to this game just to see like if this is truly the most difficult level or if I'm just missing something. And finally, we have Super Mario Wonder. When it comes to this game, there's only one level that truly separates the casual players from the badge masters. The final test, Badge Marathon. You only unlock this monster after fully completing the game. Every Wonder Seed, every 10 Flower Coin, every Golden Flag. Once you do, the game hits you with its ultimate challenge, a gauntlet that tests every single badge you've learned along the way. Each room forces you to use a different badge, like the parachute cap, dolphin kick, wall climb jump, even the dreaded spring feet, each one pushing your reflexes and timing to their absolute limit. 1 second you're floating above poison geysers, the next you're bouncing uncontrollably between spinning fire bars, praying you land somewhere safe. And it's not just tough, it's ruthless. You get checkpoints, but each room feels like its own mini-boss fight. The spring feed section in particular has already gained a reputation as the hardest part in the entire game. They're just chaotic, fast, and one mistake means you're starting over. In a way, the final test is everything Wonder has been building towards: creativity, precision, complete mastery over Mario's movement. It's the modern day equivalent of Champions Road or Grandmaster Galaxy. Perfect farewell to a great game that may not have been that difficult the whole way, but definitely made up for it in the end. And that's the video. I know a lot of these seem like safe picks, like the consensus picks, but that's for good reason. A lot of Mario games are fairly easy, and then there's just one level that stands out, and usually it's towards the end of the game or a post-game content. This is just based on what I think the hardest level in each Mario game is, and you're welcome to disagree. A lot of these levels I haven't went back to in a long time, so my memory could be a little fuzzy of it. I could have mistaken something for being a little easier or a little harder than it actually was, but I think even if I went back to most of these games, my opinions would probably stay the same. If you did enjoy this, be sure to like and subscribe, and also join my Discord, and also consider becoming a channel member for just a couple bucks a month. Thank you for watching Domainy, and I'll see you next time.